Hey guys, it's Lindsay. I am going to do the Aries deep dive for 2026. We're going to go into a general reading and then we're going to go into the full reading. Let's see what shows up. As always, if any of these messages don't align for you, please take only what you need and leave the rest. I have my piles of cards here. Like 6 decks in front of me. Okay. Sometimes it's fun just to pick up the cards and see what happens, right? I used to have a friend who would, she had a giant bag of tarot cards and she had like 30 decks in there and they would all just get mixed up and then we would just pick, right? So that's kind of fun. So Aries, what are we doing? I'm hearing masked man or taking off the mask. So interestingly enough, you have the lioness protection. It feels like for a long time, Aries, that you've been wearing this mask, right, for your protection or what you perceive as your protection. And 2026 is like the year that you finally take off the mask and actually are yourself. You know, you're not play acting, you're not on the stage, right? So we have the dolphin, happiness, and then we have the polar bear, ancestors, and the cat, intuition. So I feel like you are now becoming aware of how much energy that mask took to hold, right? Took to wear, constantly wearing the mask. And it was so disingenuous to who you actually are and so performative. And I think you're now coming to terms with the fact that you did that for protection, but in some ways it was completely unnecessary. Maybe at first it was, maybe you were in situations where you needed that protection, right? Where you couldn't be yourself or show your emotions or things like that. But it feels like you wore this mask for years after, years. And like even when you're out of that situation where you didn't need the protection anymore, you're still wearing the mask, and finally you're coming to terms with it, and you're sitting with the fact that, holy shit, I've been wearing this mask most of my life, and who am I under the mask? And I feel like that's very much what is coming through in 2026. You're finally figuring out who you actually are under the mask and what actually makes you happy, right? And I think part of this is weirdly uniquely tied to, like, we had the ancestors come in and we had intuition. It's maybe not ancestors, but like maybe it is, but it's like connecting with parts of yourself. It can be ancestrally, that you've missed or been disconnected from, and really being intuitive about learning about yourself, okay? I feel like 2026 is really Aries for you learning about yourself, learning about who you are, learning about your likes and dislikes, and not being afraid to be like, I like this, I don't like this, and just being honest with it. Because also on the other side of that, I feel like you've been masked for so long and you've gone along with things that maybe you didn't like, or maybe there was like, as you're going along with things and you realize you don't like them or you don't like the people that you're around, there would be this outburst of like anger. Like finally you would be like, I don't want to do this anymore, or I'm not going to do this, or this is ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. So it's like you would wear this mask and like pretend to go along with things and everything seemingly was fine, but underneath it all, it wasn't, okay? And then you would have these outbursts where it would kind of take other people back because they thought you were fine, right? Okay. So now for you, it's almost like putting yourself first, putting your voice first, and being clear on your boundaries, and also reconnecting with those parts of yourself, as we said, ancestrally, if it does mean ancestors, family, things like that. But the message that's coming through is that you need softness, okay? You need softness in your life, and you need to understand how to be soft in your life, right? Okay, so the mask in itself as a protective mechanism is hard, right? It's a defense. It's a hard line defense. Because if no one can read you, if no one can get close to you, that's a first line of defense. That's a hard line of defense. And I feel like that hard line of defense has set so deeply within your psyche that you don't know how to be soft with yourself, okay? And so now 2026 is about relearning who you are and relearning how to be soft with yourself as you're learning, and not judge yourself on how you show up, right? So that's going to require a lot of courage and a lot of like guts and a lot of attention, and like asking the questions to yourself. What do I like? What do I not like? What feels good to me? What doesn't feel good to me? If I could live in my ideal life, what would that look like? What would that feel like? Who would be around me? What are the type of people that would be around me? And that's where you start to open the field to this ideal life, right? Okay. There's this other thing too, and I think part of it is like definitely talk therapy and the way that it comes through. Like I feel like behind the mask you haven't shared yourself with a lot of people, and so you keep your emotions and thoughts to yourself. And now is the time, like if you feel like you need to go to talk therapy and talk to someone, I think now is the time to work with that. You know, find a good therapist that you feel good about and talk to them. Like you really need to talk. I feel this like block in your throat chakra, Aries. Like you have things you need to say, you have truths you need to say. It is less about who you say them to, and it's more about you saying it, right? You need to say it. You need to put those words and those vibrations out into the universe and be like, this is my truth, right? So you can move through it, because I feel a lot of your blocks is around your throat. It's around you speaking, and not speaking to like, I feel like you talk and you know how to talk to people, okay? You talk to people and you tell them what they want to hear. That's what you're doing, Aries. You tell them what they want to hear, because it's easier. But when it comes down to it, you don't know how to speak your truth. To just speak your truth, and not, it doesn't even matter. I think, yes, being heard is one thing, but I think it's speaking your truth and letting it out of you, okay? Like, it's so stuck in the throat chakra is what I'm feeling. It's so stuck. Like, I want to gag. Like, I want to throw up, because it's just, your truth is just here. Like, you told people what they've wanted to hear for so long. You've worn the mask for so long that it would almost be a shock to your system for you to speak your truth. And not like scream your truth, but just speak it honestly, right? Okay, so what else are we saying for Aries during 2026? The cards are backwards. Why is it backwards? Oh, okay. So here's what's coming through. 5 of Swords. You see he's like with the swords and he's moving. It may require you, we were talking about talk therapy and things like that. Part of this mask removal might require you in talk therapy or through some form of therapy. I'm also hearing EMDR, so if you don't know what that is, please look it up. Through some form of therapy, you might have to do, or like literally, you might have to do a regression therapy, okay? Regression therapy is you going back to the point you put the mask on for whatever reason. If you've never touched that in your life, why the mask was there, if you've never looked at that honestly, if you've never cracked that open and really taken a look at that, 2026 is the year that you might have to do like a regression therapy and really get to the bottom of why you put that mask on, if you don't know. And even if you know, I think it's almost like you have to meet that part of yourself. And it's almost like, okay, so I've said this before in a couple of my videos. There's this technique called reparenting, okay? It's where you reparent child versions of yourself that had to go through difficult things, right? So you teach yourself, you treat yourself as an adult in some ways emotionally like you would that child. Because what happens when children go through trauma and they grow into adults, I'm not a therapist, but I've learned when children go through trauma and they grow into adults, if it is severe enough trauma, mentally, emotionally, they don't get past it, okay? So for you, if this is something that you feel maybe part of yourself, mentally, emotionally, you've had something happen in your childhood that you've never gotten past, or you've never really come to terms with, reparenting might be something for you to look into alongside your talk therapy, which is, again, treating yourself as if you were at that age, and if you could be the proper parent to that child, the parent that child needed, right? So what does that look like? Because it's a nice thing to say this, like, in general, like, oh, okay, that sounds great. But in reality, like day to day, what does that look like? Okay. So if you, say, lived in a messy house, right, your whole childhood, and I'm talking like very, very messy, like unlivable, or, you know, like you felt like you didn't have room to grow or whatever, to reparent that child who lived in a messy house and couldn't clean the house themselves because they are a child, right? Or didn't have the tools to clean the house themselves, or did the best they could. Implementing that in your life, looking at your surroundings, looking at your home now, and cleaning your house like your parents should have, okay? That's a huge emotional task, right? Looking at your house and saying, I deserve to live in a clean space. And saying that to yourself as you're doing it, I deserve to live in a clean space. I deserve to live in a safe space, okay? And the same thing with, say, like food. If you had, you know, food instability or anything like that, feeding yourself consistently and telling yourself, I deserve to be fed. I deserve to be fed healthy food, okay? Like if you were a child who was left to fend for themselves and, like, God forbid, like, eat canned food because you had nothing else, you didn't have fresh fruit or vegetables or anything like that, or you didn't have anything. As an adult, reparenting and saying, I deserve this meal, okay? That's how you do this, you know, on your own. Take responsibility, and you can do this regressive therapy. All those aspects of your life that you weren't properly cared for, you reparent yourself and you care for yourself. And that's how you emotionally and mentally develop as an adult, right? You work through the process of correcting those things that, you know, led you down a path that maybe you didn't want to go down, or you had no control over because you were a child, right? So this is what 2026 is feeling like for you, Aries. It's like the hard to task stuff, the cleaning up stuff of doing the hard stuff, taking off the mask, and really doing the hard work if you haven't done it, and not pretending like it's not there, because it's there. And at some point, you know, if it hasn't come off, it will. Okay, so it's like your responsibility to be accountable for yourself now as an adult, and how you emotionally, mentally, physically express yourself. Okay, and that's how you promote healing in your life. That's how you promote forward movement. And 2026 feels like the stopping point for you to do this, because you won't move beyond it unless you do it, right? You're not going to be doing all the things that you want to do unless you tackle this stuff, okay? Let's see if anything else is yeah. And like, if you look, I'm totally talking about the mask. Look at her. She has that mask on, okay? Anything else? There's also, I'm seeing like the cat. There's also something like kitten or a small animal or something, like a comfort animal, okay? I feel like if you are choosing to do this heavy emotional work at this time, if you are ready for it, you're gonna need like a comfort animal, okay? If you don't have a pet, or now would be a good time to consider having that, you know, comfort animal. I do see like a small cat, like a small animal. The other thing with that, I see cats specifically. Cats are very intuitive, okay? And they can read your emotions, so they're very helpful in that area. Okay, so you have the Emperor and you have the Justice card. So when you start to work through this stuff, the scales are balancing and you're coming into yourself and you're knowing yourself deeper than you've ever known yourself before, okay? And that's what the requirement is of 2026 of you, Aries, is doing the work so you can know yourself deeper than you've ever known yourself before. You have to do that legwork, you know. You can't, you know, go to the gym and do arms only. You have to do legwork, because if you don't have a good foundation, anything you're going to put on that foundation is going to crumble. It's going to crumble, okay? And that is really what I'm seeing for 2026, Aries. Take the mask off. My name is Lindsey Rose. This is Storyteller Tarot. If you would like your own reading, please check out the links in bio. Otherwise, I wish you guys well.